So remote work. It's a hot topic, that's for sure. You've been asking about it, and honestly, so have we. It's like this whole work from anywhere thing kind of exploded during the pandemic, and now, well, it's getting interesting, to say the least.
Interesting is putting it mildly. There's definitely been a shift. We went from the future's remote to almost like a U-turn back.
Yeah. And to help us understand what's going on, you brought us this piece by senior technical writer Curt Robbins, who's been working remotely himself.
And he's been pretty vocal about it.
For sure, no sugarcoating there. So let's dive into Robbins' insights. Is working remotely really all it's cracked up to be? What's with this push to get everyone back in the office? And most importantly, we're going to figure out what it all means for you.
One thing Robbins gets right is that remote work doesn't automatically equal productivity. It's not some magic solution for everyone.
Let's dig into that. He mentioned some people really thrive in a home office. Quiet, no distractions, just pure focus. But for others, it's like they're surrounded by distractions. That laundry pile starts looking pretty tempting. Even Robbins admits he actually gets more done at home. Is it really just a personality thing?
Personality's huge. Think about it. Introverts, extroverts. Some people recharge when they're alone. They need that quiet time to focus. Others, they need to be around people. They feed off that energy. If you try to force everyone into the same box, whether it's a cubicle or a home office, it's not going to work for everyone.
So are companies starting to realize that maybe they should treat people like individuals?
Well, that brings us to what's happening right now. This whole return to office wave. Remember the beginning of the pandemic when it seemed like working from home was the future? Turns out a lot of big companies are pumping the brakes on that idea.
For sure. Robbins mentioned some big names too. Amazon, Disney, even Goldman Sachs, they're all calling people back in, at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's all over the place. Some want you in 2 days a week. Some want the full 5 days. It's kind of wild.
And that's what makes it so interesting. It's this power struggle. You've got companies that want control, right? They want everyone in the office where they can see them. But then you have employees, especially younger generations, who are demanding flexibility. They're saying, we can be productive, but we want some say in how and where we work.
And get this, Robbins even talks about Zoom making their employees go back to the office. Zoom, the company that basically enabled remote work. It's kind of ironic when you think about it.
Totally. It makes you wonder, right? Like, do companies actually practice what they preach? Something to think about, especially when you're looking for a job. What companies do often matters more than those fancy mission statements about work-life balance.
That's some real talk right there. So you have some companies stuck in their ways, but Robbins mentions others are trying different things to get people back in the office. Like EY, the accounting giant. Instead of just saying, get back here, they're actually offering to help with things like commuting costs, childcare, even pet care.
It's different, right? Instead of just making demands, it's like they're saying, we hear you, we get it, this is tough, and we're going to try to help make it easier. Seems like they're actually trying to understand.
Totally. And honestly, for a lot of people, those little things, the commute, childcare they make, going to the office, a pain. So if EY takes those away.
Right. They're acknowledging that everyone's different. Life doesn't always fit into a neat little 9-to-5 box. Maybe, just maybe, this is the start of a bigger change, but it's too early to tell. Still, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Wow. It feels like a more human way of doing things. You know?
Yeah.
But here's the thing that Robbins keeps emphasizing. Remote work. As great as it can be, it's not for everyone. And to be fair, neither is a traditional office. Everyone's different. So true. It's like saying everyone should love the same flavor of ice cream. Just doesn't work that way. But let's get practical. Say someone's listening and they're thinking, remote work sounds amazing, but is it really for me? What are some signs that maybe, just maybe, their personality or work style is actually better suited to a regular office?
Well, a big one is self-discipline. Working from home, you got to be able to create your own structure. If you need someone looking over your shoulder or you work best with deadlines looming, it might be tough to stay on track when you're at home.
Right? Like out of sight, out of mind. Suddenly that pile of laundry seems way more important than that project that's due. What else? What are some other signs that remote work might not be the best fit?
Another one is that need for social interaction. Some people, they get energy from being around others. Those chats at the water cooler, brainstorming sessions, even just the buzz of an office, it keeps them going. Working remotely all the time, it could leave them feeling isolated and kind of,
You mean there are people who actually like their coworkers and don't just fantasize about muting everyone on Monday morning?
Exactly. They really do thrive on that face-to-face energy. A traditional office, even with all the little annoyances, might be a better fit for them.
Okay, so let's flip it. What about signs that someone's actually better off working remotely? Red flags for the office, so to speak.
Oh, for sure. Being really sensitive to noise is a big one. Remember, open office plans, great for some, but if you're wincing every time someone crinkles a chip bag,
Oh, tell me about it. I once shared an office with someone who loved taking calls on speakerphone.
hmm,
Full volume. Noise-canceling headphones were a lifesaver.
it's crazy how such a small thing can totally mess with your focus. If you're constantly battling distractions in a busy office, working remotely can be amazing. You create your own space, peace, and quiet, and you can actually concentrate.
And some offices, let's be real, they can be a sensory overload. Phones ringing off the hook, people swinging by your desk, that one person who microwaves fish for lunch. It's a lot.
It comes down to knowing yourself. What do you need to do your best work? And sometimes that means pushing back against that whole one-size-fits-all thing that some companies still cling to.
So it's not about blindly following the remote work is the only way crowd or the everyone back to the office folks. It's about figuring out what works for you.
100%. Whether that's negotiating a flexible schedule or finding a company that truly gets remote work, it's about creating a work life that actually works for you.
And sometimes that means being willing to ask the tough questions, right? Especially if you're considering a remote job. Don't be afraid to dig in during the interview process.
Exactly. Ask about their remote work policies, how they communicate, what their expectations are about availability. It's about finding the right fit for both of you.
Because really, you want a company that doesn't just talk the talk, right?
Yeah.
They have to walk the walk.
100%. It's easy to put a fancy remote work policy on your website, but do they actually believe it? Do they trust their employees to get things done no matter where they are? Those are the things you want to know.
This has been so insightful. It's not just about being pro or anti-remote work. It's about really getting into the nitty-gritty and figuring out what works best for you as an individual.
And remember, this isn't a one-time thing. What works for you now might change later on. Stay informed, stay curious, and don't be afraid to reevaluate as your career evolves.
You know, it's funny, we started talking about how the whole remote work conversation is changing, and I'm actually feeling kind of optimistic.
Oh,
Well, just think, this whole debate has forced companies to actually stop and think about how they do things, how they treat their employees, what really matters for productivity and happiness at work. It's like they're finally realizing that we can't just have a one-size-fits-all approach anymore.
and that's a good thing. Maybe this is what it takes to create workplaces that actually put people first, no matter where they're located.
Yeah.
Workplaces that get that flexibility, empathy, and well-being are important.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Like Robin said, it's not about finding the right answer for everyone, but the right answer for you. And sometimes getting there takes a little soul-searching, doing your research, maybe even challenging the way things have always been done.
Couldn't agree more. And, having these conversations, pushing for more flexibility and understanding, maybe that's how we create a future of work that works for everyone.
On that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the world of remote work. This is just the beginning, though. Keep those questions coming. Don't be afraid to speak up for what you need. And most importantly, keep exploring what it means to thrive in this ever-changing work landscape.